Hey boys and girls, so I have a really cool story for us today. And before I show you, actually I can go ahead and show you the cover of it. This is the cover of it. The title of the story is The Three Little Javelinas, okay? And I want you to think about that title, The Three Little Javelinas, and see if you can think of another story that we've read or that you've heard that kind of resembles that title, The Three Little Javelinas, okay? The author's name is Susan Lowell, and the illustrator's name is Jim Harris. Inside the cover of this story, there is a little page. It looks like this, and it kind of gives us some information about the book, and I'm going to read you just a little bit of it, not all of it, because I don't want to give some stuff away yet. So it says, this is a Southwestern adaptation of a familiar folk tale. So I want you to think about that. What familiar folk tale do you already know that this resembles? Okay, it sounds like. This story takes place in a desert where Native American, Mexican, and Anglo cultures blend together. Javelina comes from a Spanish name for the collared peccary, a New World relative of swine. Okay, but not a true pig. And I might have just given you some clues by saying that. So, javelinas are extremely bristly, very hairy on their chin. Now, does that part right there give away some information? Okay, so I'm going to read you the story. I'm going to start to read you the story, and I want you to be thinking about what book this reminds you of that we've already read, because this is just an adaptation of it, okay? While I'm reading, I want you to start to compare and contrast some things between this storybook and some that you've already heard. So when you compare, you're thinking about some things that are the same. Okay? And when you contrast, I want you to be thinking about things that are different, and I'll kind of point some out as we get through some of the story, so I don't give it away right away. All right. Once upon a time, way out in the desert, there were three little javelinas. Javelinas are wild, hairy, southwestern cousins of pigs. Their heads were hairy, their backs were hairy, and their bony legs all the way down to their hard little hooves were very hairy, but their snouts were soft and pink. One day, the three little javelinas trotted away to seek their fortunes. In this hot, dry land, the sky was almost always blue. Steep purple mountains looked down on the desert where the cactus forests grew. Cactus forests? What? Did you know anything like that existed? Cactus forests? Soon the little javelinas came to a spot where the path divided and each one went a different way. The first little javelina wandered lazily along. He didn't see a dust storm whirling across the desert until it caught him. The whirlwind blew away and left the first little javelina sitting in a heap of tumbleweeds. Brushing himself off, he said, "I'll build a house with them." And in no time at all, he did. There's his mailbox, and it says number 1 Tumbleweed Avenue. Look like he's got a little visitor sticking out of his mailbox. Okay, look at that house. Does it look like it's very sturdy and strong? Does it look like he took a lot of time to build it? Did he think long and hard about what kind of product he was going to use to build it? All right, let's see. What do you guys think is going to happen next? Ooh. Then along came a coyote. He ran through the desert so quickly and so quietly, he was almost invisible. In fact, this was only one of Coyote's magical tricks. He laughed when he saw the tumbleweed house and smelled the javelina inside. A tender, juicy piggy, he thought. Coyote was tired of eating mice and rabbits. He called out sweetly, little pig, let me come in." "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin," shouted the first javelina, who had a lot of hair on his chinny chin chin. "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in," said Coyote. And he huffed, and he puffed, and he blew the little tumbleweed house away. But in all the hullabaloo, the first little javelina escaped and went looking for his brother and sister. Coyote was very sneaky, and he tiptoed along behind him. What? Okay, what is this reminding you of so far? What storybook so far? Is it reminding you of the Three Little Pigs? That's what it's reminding me of. I'm going to move this little junk that Hayden and Hayes have left in the middle of the floor because it's driving me bonkers when I'm seeing it in the background. Okay. The second little javelina walked for miles among giant cactus plants called saguaros. And if you look closely at that word, there's a G in it, but it's showing me how to pronounce it. Saguaros. They held their red fruit high in the sky, but they made almost no shade, and the little javelina grew hot. Then he came upon a Native American woman who was gathering sticks from inside a dried up cactus. She planned to use those long sticks called saguaros ribs to knock down the sweet cactus fruit. The second little javelina said, "Please, may I have some sticks to build a house?" "Ha'au," she said, which means yes in the language of the desert people. Okay, there he is walking. How does it look like he's feeling? Look what's coming down off of him. Some sweat beads. He's wiping his forehead. Look at that sun shining. See how the illustrator is showing us that it's so hot by making all that yellow come down on him? When he was finished building his house, he lay down in the shade. Then his brother arrived, panting from the heat, and the second little javelina moved over and made a place for him. Okay, so the second brother's house is done. The first one finally shows up, and they're resting. The sign up here says, "Do not disturb." What do you think's going to happen? Is this a good plan for them to be resting right now? I mean, they've worked so hard in the heat. Pretty soon, Coyote found the rib house. He used his magic to make his voice sound just like another javelina. Little pig, let me come in," he called. But the javelinas were suspicious. The second one cried, "No, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." "Bah," thought Coyote, "I'm not going to eat your hair." Then Coyote smiled, showing all of his sharp teeth. "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in." So he huffed and he puffed and the ribs came tumbling down. But the two little javelinas escaped into the desert. Still not discouraged, the Coyote followed them. Sometimes his magic did fail, but then he usually came up with another trick. All right, so far, two of them are escaping, just like the Three Little Pigs. The third little javelina trotted through beautiful Palo Verde trees with green trunks and yellow flowers. She saw a snake sliding by, smooth as oil. A hawk floated round and around above her. And then she came to a place where a man was making adobe bricks from mud and straw. The bricks lay on the ground, baking in the hot sun. The third little javelina thought for a minute and said, "May I please have a few adobe bricks to build a house?" "Sí," answered the man, which means yes in Spanish, the brickmaker's language. Okay, the original Three Little Pigs. Was their house made out of bricks? Yeah, but were they adobe bricks? So a little bit of something different there. And then, in all the versions of the Three Little Pigs that you have ever heard, has there ever been a girl pig? A sister pig? I've never noticed that before. That is quite interesting in this version. All right, let's keep going. So the third Javelina built herself a solid little adobe house, cool in the summer and warm in the winter. You can see it close up. There's her little house. When her brothers found her, she welcomed them in and locked the door behind them. Coyote followed their trail. Little pig, let me come in, he called. The three little Javelinas looked out the window. This time Coyote pretended to be very old and weak with no teeth and a sore paw. Oh, he's a tricky little guy, isn't he? But they were not fooled. No, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin, called back the third little Javelina. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in, said Coyote. He grinned, thinking of the wild pig dinner to come. Just try it, shouted the third little Javelina. So Coyote huffed and puffed, but the adobe bricks did not budge. Again, Coyote tried. I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in. The three little Javelinas covered their hairy ears, but nothing happened. The Javelinas peeked out the window. Oh, what do you think's gonna happen? Do you remember what's happened in some of the Three Little Pigs story? What happened when they peeked out the window? Or when they looked out, what did the wolf do next in those versions? Let's check out the coyote. What's he doing? You got some clues? Some ideas from the illustrations? Okay, let's see. The tip of the coyote's raggedy tail whisked right past their noses. He was climbing upon the tin roof. Next, Coyote used his magic to make himself very skinny. The stovepipe, gasped the third little Javelina. Quickly she lighted a fire inside her wood stove. What a feast it will be, Coyote said to himself. He squeezed into the stovepipe. I think I'll eat them with red-hot chili sauce. Whoosh. Oh, what do you think's happening? Then the three little Javelinas heard an amazing noise. It was not a bark. It was not a cackle. It was not a howl. It was not a scream. It was all of those sounds together. Yup, 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 yup. Away ran a puff of smoke shaped like a coyote. The three little Javelinas lived happily ever after in the adobe house. And if you ever hear Coyote's voice way out in the desert at night, well, you know what he's remembering. So, were you guys able to figure out that it was an adaptation of the Three Little Pigs? I think that is so fun. I had pulled this storybook out to go along with our week of Cinco de Mayo activities, but we had so many fun things going on that I didn't get a chance to read it, so I thought this would be a good one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you get a chance to do some writing, you could write me a first, next, and last from the story, the three Javelinas, what happened first, then what happened next, and what happened last in the story. A different type of writing that you could do something else is you could write me an opinion piece, okay? So an opinion piece of writing, you would write me a few sentences saying which version do you like better and why, okay? Do you like the version of the Three Little Javelinas the best and why? Like maybe you liked the clothes that they wore, maybe you liked the materials that they built their house out of, or do you like the original Three Little Pigs story best, okay? It's your choice, it's your opinion, what you think was the better story. So that's another type of writing that you could do. All right, guys, talk to you later.